Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Shloka Day. Today's Shloka is Shloka number 28 of chapter 18. Ayuktah prakritah stabdhah
Ayukta pragrita stabdaha
Shatho naishkritiko lasah
adho nashkriti kolasaha
Vishadi dirgha sutri cha
Vishadi dirgha sutri cha
Karta tamasa uchyate.
Karta tamasa uchyade.
Word for word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Ayuktaha,
Ayuktaha,
not referring to the scriptural injunctions.
not referring to the spiritual injunctions.
Prakritaha,
Prakritaha,
materialistic.
materialistic.
Stabdhaha,
Abdaha,
obstinate.
obstinate.
Shataha,
Tadaha,
deceitful.
deceitful.
Naishkritikaha,
Nishkritiha,
expert in insulting others.
expert in insulting others.
Alasaha,
Aladaha,
lazy.
lazy.
Vishadi,
Vishade,
morose.
morose.
Dirgha sutri,
Dirgha sutri,
procrastinating.
procrastinating.
Cha,
Yeah,
also.
also.
Karta,
Artha,
worker.
worker.
Tamasaha,
Tamasaha,
in the mode of ignorance.
the mode of ignorance.
Uchyate,
Uchyade,
is said to be.
is said to be.
Translation: the worker who is always engaged in work,
The worker who is always engaged in the work
against the injunctions of the scripture,
against the injunctions of the scripture,
who is materialistic,
who is materialistic,
obstinate,
obstinate,
cheating,
cheating,
an expert in insulting others,
an expert in insulting others,
and who is lazy,
and who is lazy,
always morose,
always morose,
and procrastinating,
and procrastinating,
is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance.
is said to be the worker in the mode of ignorance.
Yes, so here Prabhupada writes in the purport, in the scriptural injunctions, we find what sort of work should be performed and what sort of work should not be performed. Those who do not care for those injunctions engage in work not to be done, and such persons are generally materialistic. They work according to the modes of nature, not according to the injunctions of the scripture. Such workers are not very gentle, and generally they are always cunning and expert in insulting others. Therefore, they appear to be morose. They procrastinate. Anything which can be done in an hour, they drag on for years. Such workers are situated in the mode of ignorance. From another parampara. So essentially, Prabhupada is explaining the characteristics of the people who are predominantly under the influence of tamogun. So if the worker is under the influence of tamogun, then the work may also include work that is associated with tamogun. Shri Krishna now gives a description of tamasic workers. Their mind is blotted with negative obsessions, and thus they are ayuktaha, undisciplined. The scriptures give injunctions regarding what is proper and improper behavior. But workers in the mode of ignorance are stabdhaha, obstinate in their views, for they have closed their ears and mind to reason. Thus, they are often shataha, cunning, and naishkritikaha, dishonest or vile in their ways. They are prakritaha, vulgar, because they do not believe in controlling their animal instinct. Though they may have duties to perform, they see effort as laborious and painful, and so they are alasaha, slothful, and Dhirga Sutri, procrastinating. Their ignoble and base thoughts impact them more than anyone else, making them Vishadi, unhappy and morose. So what is interesting is such people, they are actually harming themselves, right? Ultimately, because they've got everything wrong. Their world is completely upside down compared to what the scriptures ask us to do and not to do. So that is how we understand this particular passage. The Srimad Bhagavatam also describes types of performers of actions. Sattvikaha karako sangi, ragandho rajasaha smritaha, tamasa smriti vibhrashto, nirguno madapashrayaha. This is in the 11th canto. The worker who is detached is sattvic in nature. The one who is excessively attached to action and its results is rajasic. One who is devoid of discrimination is tamasic. But the worker who is surrendered to me is transcendental to the three modes. So in this one shloka, it clearly summarizes the three shlokas that we have been reading so far. So a devotee is surrendered to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they are said to be in the Shuddha Sattva state. Whereas all the other workers are still materialistic, even the worker who is detached but is sattvic in nature is still materialistic because they will get materialistic results for the way they are conducting their lives. His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says, we are defined by what we stand for, not what we stand against. Essentially, the tamasic workers are against things, right? But the way they conduct themselves, they send themselves down into lower species of life. Some people are perpetual agitators, which means they are just not at peace with themselves or with others. They are always agitating. They are just ready for a fight. I'm sure some of us may be familiar with individuals like this. They agitate against the government, against the police, against the corporate world, against the religious orthodoxy, against the cultural norms. They stand against anything that represents hierarchies and power structures, which they deem intrinsically evil, not just corruptible, but innately corrupt. So essentially, they just reject authority. It doesn't matter which frame of reference we are looking at it from. The Bhagavad Gita indicates that sarcastic and stubborn people work in the mode of ignorance. This mode is characterized by energy and even expertise in destruction. So oftentimes we think that tamogun means lazy, working under illusion, slow, etc. But we need to understand that there are certain categories of people who are under the influence of tamogun, who are very energetic and who are self-destructive and destroy others also. But those working thus are poor at construction and pathetic at maintenance. If such people somehow tap public discontent with the status quo and gain power, they soon find themselves agendaless and rudderless, for they have defined themselves by what they stand against, not what they stand for. So such people will agitate others by trying to get them to reject everything. You know? So you can understand that atheistic people will be like this. They are only against God, but they don't tell us what they are for then. You know? So ultimately, their kind of leadership will ultimately get destroyed. Even if they claim to stand for some positive cause, they often end up perpetuating the same exploitative power structure that they had agitated against. The irony of ironies is that while they reject all these external power structures, they themselves create a new power structure that goes against the injunctions of the scriptures. Thus, for example, communists promised classless equality for all, but ended up arrogating means taking over, privilege for themselves while the majority remained in scarcity. So it is always, even in communism, the leaders are enjoying themselves. The rest of the people are living in poverty. This is the result of communism. They were against democracy, but they ended up doing the same thing, creating a new power structure. In their equal social structure, some people were more equal than others. So that's the irony of communism and Marxism, etc. Real positive vision rises from spiritual wisdom. So really, we have to surround ourselves with positive people. People are positive because they have a belief in a higher power, a higher authority. So real power actually stems from spirituality. The Bhagavad Gita in Sloka number 2 of chapter 4 recommends saintly kings who are seers spiritually and rulers materially, which means they are well versed in scriptures, and therefore they lead their citizens as per the scriptures. But materialistically speaking, they occupy the post of a king. Such kings find their fulfillment beyond this world in service to the absolute truth, Krishna. So we actually need leaders to guide society who believe in the Supreme Lord. If you have leaders who don't believe in the Supreme Lord, then you can understand that society is going to go to hell. Because your belief system influences the policies that you implement in society. That fulfillment enables them to use worldly resources without being enamored by the associated glamour and power. There are many people who go into politics because they get that power. They can make money. They can change the rules for themselves to benefit themselves. Such would be people under the influence of Tamogun. They are eminently capable of the leadership that reconciles reform with maintenance, balances innovation with preservation, and uses power without being used by power. They stand for the principle of service, service to the whole of which we are all parts, and service to all parts in relation with the whole. Essentially, who is the whole? The Supreme Lord Krishna is the whole. Who are the parts? All of the Jivatmas are the parts. So by serving the Supreme Lord first, you are also serving all the parts. By serving all the parts, we are also serving the Supreme Whole. Such holistically inspired leaders can bring about tangible and sustainable improvement individually and collectively. So essentially, Krishna is warning us about working under the influence of Tamogun. That means you will be violating the Lord's laws. Essentially, it is going to cause tremendous karmic reactions for us because we don't care to follow the Lord's instructions. So that's a pretty dangerous thing that devotees try to avoid. So that's the essence of this particular shloka. And this concludes the 3 shlokas where the Lord has talked about the karta under the influence of the 3 gunas.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you'd like to join our classes every day, please check the details in the description section of this video. We look forward to serving you.